everybody knows, if you want fast storage, get you an SSD or whatever, right? But that wasn't always true. Back in the 2000s, hard drives were the only real storage type, other than some obscure SSDs and tape disks and, save icon floppies, like in GTA or whatever, and, whatever other random sorts of media. But a regular hard drive either, spins at 5400 RPM or at 7200 RPM. Basically, the RPM basically is basically how fast the little plates inside the hard drive spin that holds all your data. But in 2009, WD released the Raptor, spinning at a blistering 10,000 RPM, revolutions per minute. That's more RPM than some supercars. These Raptors were basically hard drives on steroids, pumping more speeds than anything on the public market. But in 2011, they released more storage versions with more tiers of storage amounts, more higher amounts for people that need more, slightly lower amounts that were also really fast. And that's what we're looking at today. This is the fastest 250 gig version. And they were so extreme that this is literally a thick laptop drive and closed in a very heavy duty heatsink, basically. And basically this is the same size as this. That's literally how they were made for the heatsink. So let's take a look and see if this 10-year-old Raptor, yes, 10 years old, it's its birthday almost, either kept his muscles like Stallone or died from the steroids like Arnold. No offense, there's something there. Somewhere. So what you see here is Crystal Dismark, and it's a great synthetic benchmark to test speeds of all types of drives. Now looking at the empty drive scores for the Raptor, it gets a pretty impressive 202 read, and nearly a 200 megabyte per second write speed. And looking at those 4K scores, 3.3 and 3.8 megabytes per second respectively, that's not half bad for a hard drive this old. But remember, let's compare to the competition. Here is a WD 250 gigabyte Blue, which was manufactured around the same time of 2010 and uses a 5400 RPM platter, which was pretty common for drives of this time. And it still brings in what I would consider to be pretty respectable scores at about 109 megabytes per second read and 108 megabytes per second write, which is right about the halfway mark of the Raptor, which the 4K scores also pretty much show. And here is an SSD you can basically get for the same price, the $20 to $30 as I paid for the Raptor. This is a Crucial BX500 120 gig version, 128 gig version, I don't remember. And it just destroys it with a 464 read and a 447 megabytes per second write. And the 4K scores are it's just not even close to comparing, 185 and 142 respectively. So if you're not too tech-minded, you probably don't know that when a hard drive gets filled up, it slows down. So let's take another look at these numbers to get a more realistic look at how they perform under being used a little bit. Now on the Raptor, we see a pretty big 30 megabyte per second drop with 178 megabytes per second read and 185 megabytes per second writes. And the 4K scores being quite slow on the reads, but not as hard on the write, which is surprising. Onto the WD Blue, the speeds almost don't drop at all. It could probably even be margin of error, where it only drops about within 10 megabytes per second. The 4K scores are about the same thing as the Raptor, where the reads are pretty slow, but the writes didn't get hit as hard. And then on the SSD, SSDs don't really slow down when they get filled up, but sometimes they can on lower end drives that have bad memory chips or no DRAM or something like that, and they have bad cache. But here the SSD basically doesn't change, having a 462 read and a 430 write, and the 4K doesn't change at all, but actually it increases on the write speeds. Now I do use a hard drive, and obviously I can't get an empty score for my hard drive because I'm using it for the computer, But let's throw it in on the field section, and this is a 4TB Seagate Barracuda 2018 version, running at 7200 RPM. And it shows some pretty good scores. It beats the Raptor at 186 and 173 reads and write, but the 4K numbers are oddly horrid. And I tested this at least 5 times, and for some reason I can't seem to get a score higher than this. Maybe my hard drive is dying even though I just bought it, but who cares, right? So that was a synthetic test, but that doesn't always mean much, especially to you probably. So let's do some more real world loading tests. The most important part of a hard drive or an SSD is how quick you can have it boot into Windows, and nobody wants to wait on Windows to boot. Shown side by side, Raptor on the left, SSD in the middle, and WD Blue on the right. To make the test more accurate, I had it instantly load up Edge, and then once that page loads in, the timer stops, basically. And the SSD gets it done in 23 seconds. That's pretty quick. The Raptor finishes up at 40 seconds, roughly, and then the WD Blue slowly comes in and finishes at a minute and 5 seconds. Basically double of what the SSD took. Where this shows the faster read speeds of the Raptor help it load the Windows assets and gets the program open much quicker, and so that it can load and basically have the machine ready. Now with loading some games. Here we have the Forest, which has a first time world creation loading, which is similar how Minecraft when you create a world. Here the SSD gets 8 seconds before it gets into the cutscene, the Raptor at 9.5 seconds, and then last is the WD Blue at 13 seconds. This shows that the extra speed from the faster spinning spindle or platter on the Raptor helps it really write the world data onto the drive much quicker compared to the regular hard drive. Our last game here has 2 parts, which is Rust. The first test is how long it takes to load from clicking start basically into the main menu, and then the second test is actually loading onto a server, which was a private set server at the time, so that there is no other variables other than me loading into the server. There's no other players, no nothing, no other anything. And so yeah, if you guys are interested, the server will be in the description. That is Tyler Tube's Rust server. And yeah, so we all know that Rust is a slow game start, load, anything basically. So, and here we see that the SSD is done first with 31 seconds to load into the main menu. Waiting up quite a while longer, we actually have the WD Blue beating the Raptor. Not by much, but they're around the 1 minute 50 second mark. But that shows that the bottleneck isn't the speed of the drives, but mostly the limitation of hard drives in general, I believe. I don't know the exact specifics, but that's what I'm believing. And now we're loading onto the server. Like I said, this is Tyler Tube's Rust server, info will be in the description. And for y'all's sanity, I really sped up these the clips here because it took a while. After a long minute and 35 seconds, the SSD gets loaded into the server basically, where I can play. In another minute and a half, the Raptor finishes at 3 minutes and 6 seconds. And speeding up quite a bit more, the WD Blue finally loads in at a blisteringly slow 5 minutes and 28 seconds. At that rate, you'd basically miss your raid and you would have a base anymore. So that kind of sucks. So what does that conclude? Was WD really onto something with these Raptors 10 years ago? Yes, they were. They were bringing 2020 type performance in a hard drive in 2009 and 10 and 11, basically. Especially when the SSD costed about the same as the GPU markups right now. Should you get one of these? Probably not. But if you were to remove it from its heatsink, which you can, and maybe stick it into an old-fashioned Xbox 360, so, because they have like the replaceable storage, that might be a good idea, because SSDs might be bottlenecked by that system. So you could probably get more storage per dollar with these, because these are like I said, about the same price. And yeah, that's about all. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. This took a while to edit. Uh, you know, not the best editor. I'm sorry for the birds. But yeah, if you guys liked it, please give it a like. Remember, you can follow me on Twitch, which is in the link in the description, as well as the Rust server, for TylerTube's Rust server. It's not super active, but if you guys make it active, that would be nice. And yeah, thank you guys, and see ya.